All right, well, welcome back to After the Shot. And today I want to take you back down to Louisiana, but not to the Louisiana bayou or swamp this week. We're actually going to take you to the Mississippi River, actually near Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where I used to live. So this particular, it was a spring or late winter, early spring. And in this particular time, the Mississippi River does start to overflow its banks. We have levees to protect us, but this year was particularly high. And I noted that the river was actually coming up almost to where our apartment was. Luckily, it didn't take us over, but it certainly came close. Now, one of the photographic benefits of this is that a lot of the trees and bushes and things like that along the river were actually either underwater or were kind of just sitting in water, and it created some pretty cool effects. Let me show this image up on screen. I'm going to have some disclaimers here to start with, but I think you'll be really pleased where we get at the end of this image. So this particular image right here, I was really attracted to this tree back here and these kind of almost fall colors, which is actually a little bit unseasonal for this particular time of year. So I snapped the picture. This is actually on my cell phone. So it did shoot at the time raw capture, which gives you more detail. We can bring it into Photoshop. We're in Adobe Camera Raw right now and get some detail out of it. You can do that. But it was a wide angle lens, so we couldn't really zoom in and get that close up of that tree. So let's go back to the image. As a consequence of that, you've got a lot of, little pieces of trash right here. And we've got some takeout down here. So we've got a lot of distractions that we got to work with here. So first thing first is to do a little bit of cropping. Now this happened to be a 16 megapixel camera that was on this particular cell phone, which is very common these days. So that gives you a little bit of room to work with here. So I'm actually going to take quite a drastic crop here of this image. So let's see here. I'm going to come to about right there, and let me kind of talk about why I would do something like that. The main focus is obviously on this bush right here, and we do kind of want to frame it with some of these trees and things around here, but we don't want to allow too much in. So like, that tree right there. In fact, let's kind of back off a little bit of that. We'll get that in there. Maybe a couple of these trees, but we don't need all that. It's going to draw our attention away from the center of the image. So we're going to go ahead and crop that like so. And in fact, I think it looks like it's slightly crooked. So let's see if we can go in there and do some correction. In fact, that may have been too much. And one thing you notice when you do these, you actually have to straighten the image. It does take a little bit of finagling there, so I think we went a little bit too far. Let's do a less drastic adjustment there. There we go. That's probably what I want. So you can see now we brought that tree into focus a lot more. We've gone to 16 megapixels down to 8.9 megapixels, my system says. That may be cut off on your screen due to the aspect ratio here. But let's go ahead here. I see we still have some trash down here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is we'll go ahead and remove that from the image. So I've got my little spot removal tool right here, and we'll make that a little bit bigger brush. And we're just going to go in here and zap it out. This should not be too hard, although it looks like it selected a sample. What it does here, I'll just show you. This red circle is what we want to correct, and then it will take a sample from another area of the image in this green circle, and for some reason decided to go back to that bottle. But we can, of course, change that, and you can see that pretty effectively eliminated those little pieces of white garbage right there. I'll be careful the way I say that. And let's go ahead and get this bottle out of the way as well. Okay. I may want to just get a different sample because it was sampling this little twig right here, and it was too close, I think, to what we were after. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to keep fooling around with this here. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better. And I think we still even have a little bit more trash up here. We'll just go along with our spot healing brush tool, get rid of this here, get another one there, we'll zap that out. Let's see, we're doing pretty well. Okay, and I think we may have one more bottle. My gosh, this Mississippi River, that's one bad thing about this river. There is quite a bit of trash and pollution, but it still can make some good photographs. That could be a reflection, but I find it a little distracting. We're going to zap that out as well. Okay, let me make sure I've got all my trash, and it looks like I've got it. Okay, so one thing, and this is, again, taken with a cell phone, so we don't have as much flexibility as we're shooting with an SLR camera or a mirrorless camera, a bigger camera. It looks like, for some reason, even though all these are pretty far away, it's focusing more on the foreground than on the background, and that does happen sometimes. Now, in this particular image, it's not too bad. I think we can go ahead and correct it. So I'm going to go ahead and take my adjustment brush tool, and I'm going to clear out these settings I've got here for us. And I'm going to go ahead here and just kind of brush over here. And we'll actually add our settings here in a minute. And we want to be careful, because if we start selecting too much of this down here, we're going to get some weird effects with the water, and we don't want that. So I'm going to come along here, just a couple taps. In fact, I may as well get some of this orange right here. Okay, so as we do that, you're going to see, if we go really too far, it's going to look really unnatural, but a very subtle tweak we can get away with here. Okay, so I like that, and then let me go ahead, like I was saying, and try and make this a little bit sharper. And we'll try and act judiciously here. So we have sharpness, so we've increased that. Let's try and fool around a little bit with some of our texture tools and clarity. We don't want to overdo this too much. In fact, that's probably overdoing it. Let's bring that texture a little bit back. But a little bit does go a long way, and I'll go ahead and bring some of that saturation up a little bit. Okay, so as you can see, we've increased the sharpness. We've corrected a little bit of that misfocus. Again, if you have a picture that's out of focus, there's not a whole lot that you can do. But in this case, we're very close, and a little bit of sharpening can fool the viewer. We just won't tell anybody that we did that. I'm sure you guys will keep it a secret. Okay, so I'm starting to really like that. One thing I do want to go into now is actually some of the color in the other part of the image. One thing I am noticing, and this was a winter day, so you see a lot of, a lot of gray here, kind of what you'd expect, and that's what made this so unique, to see that kind of yellow tree out there. But as a result of being very gray and kind of, sapped out of color, a lot of the other areas, it's a very cool image. So I'd like to add some warmth back into a little bit of yellow and orange. So we're going to go ahead and take our white balance sliders. You can see we can do all sorts of fun stuff. And ooh, maybe that might be a different shot for a different day, but let's not do that now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and warm it up a little bit. And we don't want to do this too much, but I think that, about right there or so is pretty good. And then what I want to do as well, I'm going to resist the temptation just to increase the saturation as a whole. What I mean by a whole, increasing the saturation evenly of all of the images. I want to go in there, all of the image, excuse me. I'm going to go in there and just manually select different colors and saturate those so it looks a little bit more appropriate. So one thing I'm noticing is this blue sky, and we've also got some reflection in the water of the sky. That is not as blue as I would like. So I'm going to go ahead and go into saturation. You can manually select it up here. And I'll go ahead and increase the saturation of the blue, and I'm going to see how much I can get away with here without going overboard. Okay, I'm starting to like that pretty good. Let's see as well if we can do anything about those oranges and yellows, if it's going to be too much, if I start to go saturate that a little bit more. Okay, I think I'm liking that pretty good. And let's see, we are getting somewhere. As you can see from where we started, we've gotten quite a ways, but I'm noticing this border here. Now, I did want to leave a little bit of this in to kind of frame this tree, and obviously we only had so much resolution to work with, but it is a little bit distracting. So I'm going to do a couple of things to make it less so. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in here, and what I want to do is kind of make it a little bit more of a dreamy look. I know I say that word all the time, but it's very helpful in images quite a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and decrease my clarity, which kind of just makes it over kind of soft and glowy. And I'm going to go in here, and I'm just going to take my paintbrush there, and we're going to go in here, and we're going to draw along here like so, because I don't want too much of this. I mean, I want it, but I don't want it to be the center of attention. So you can see here, I can make it, ooh, that's exactly what we don't want. But if I take it back and back it off, it really does start to help it kind of disappear into the background a little bit. Let's see what else we can do to make it a little bit less noticeable. So I'm going to take texture down a little bit there. And let me toy with the exposure just a little bit. You probably can't do much, but I'm going to see what I can do there. Okay, so as you can see, we have de-emphasized the edges there. We can zoom into 100% just to make sure that we haven't overdone it. I don't see any weird artifacts or anything like that, so I think we are good to go. All right, so one other thing I want to do, again, to add a little bit more emphasis on that tree is go ahead and do a post-crop vignette. And what that does, I've done it in previous images, previous videos, it's going to start darkening the corners of the image. Again, that will draw your eye into the center at that focus of attention being that yellow tree out there. So let's go ahead and let's see what we can do here. I'm going to take kind of a pretty drastic cut there. But one thing we can do as well, it darkens the corners, and then we can actually increase the brighter part of the middle, how much that goes out to the edges or how round that is. So I'm going to go ahead and change my midpoint is what it's called. And we'll actually push that out. As you can see, as I do that, it makes it a little bit brighter in the middle, just to kind of customize that effect a little bit. Okay. So I think we are actually getting into a pretty good spot right here. The only other thing I want to do, I'm thinking about, is maybe decreasing the saturation along the sides here just a little bit to add some emphasis. If I do too much, it's going to really take out too much color, but I'm going to do a little bit here. Again, just to add some emphasis to that tree there in the middle. Okay. I'm going to take one last once over here. And I think that is pretty good. Let's go ahead and open it into Photoshop. And I'm just going to add a quick border. As you know, I like to do that for you and show you what it might look like if you were to print and frame this, for example. And that is pretty good. I am pretty happy with that. Let me keep in mind the crop on your screen and see if we can get a decent image. There we go. So we've emphasized here the tree quite a bit. We've brought out that yellow. We've darkened the sides a little bit and really emphasized that tree, made it stand a little bit more. And again, it's making kind of what was in your head appear on screen, because sometimes, like I've said before, cameras see things a little bit differently than our eyes. So let's go ahead and bring that out. And I'm actually going to go ahead and just don't save that. Okay. So let's see where we started. We're in the bridge now. So you see we have this, what we saw here, and then we got all this, junk and garbage down here. But then we went to this, and this is what I remember. This is what I've seen. It is kind of, we haven't actually done that much, to be honest with you. We've just accentuated the colors a little bit, made it a little bit more like our memories. So it doesn't take much to do quite a bit when it comes to editing. So I appreciate you joining me here down by the Mississippi River in Louisiana. And as always, make sure you like the video, you heart the video, you share the video, whatever platform you're on as you're watching this, make sure you do all those things to help us out. And I appreciate you watching after the shot. And I think Nala's here with us. Yep, here she is. Oh my gosh, I woke her up, the poor thing. All right, go back to sleep. On behalf of Nala and I, we appreciate you watching. You have a good day. Bye-bye.